Hi, this is Tanya Sheridan from In All Sassiness Designs, and today I'm going to teach you how to make this beautiful slimline card that's using our Cape Cod card making workshop stamp and thin cuts. So this is an exclusive workshop with Close to My Heart. The stamp and thin cuts can only be purchased within this workshop kit, and with the workshop kit you have several cards that you can make with designs that Close to My Heart has given you. I decided to take it a step farther and create something outside of that box because I absolutely loved the thin cuts. So this is what the stamp set looks like. You can see that there's 2 textured pieces and 4 different sentiments that you can use. Of course, these could also be used in a scrapbooking layout, most of those. And then you have these adorable thin cuts, and these are awesome. These are probably the most awesome seashells that we've ever had that I know of. They have very intricate details, and those intricate details come right out in the shells. So I'm absolutely in love with those, and I wanted to show you how that I created this card with those thin cuts. Now I did also use one of our standard my all-around go back to slim cut die. This is the Slimline shaker window thin cuts. It allows you to cut this piece, which is a frame that fits perfectly on the Slimline card, and then it also allows you to cut this piece, which we're going to be using in the card as well. I just don't have that die with me, but it is a beautiful scalloped piece. You can use it independently or with the frame, whichever works best for you. So the first thing that we're going to do is, I'm actually going to move this out for a second. We're going to do a little bit of splattering with our shimmer brush. I'm using the clear shimmer brush, and I'm going to use the white. And so I'm going to go ahead and move my card out of the way. Typically when I use a shimmer brush, I always have a piece of paper or a little bag or something off to the side where I can squeeze my shimmer brush just a little bit to make sure that it's coming down the barrel, and because I don't want it to splatter where I don't want it to splatter or bubble up. And so I found that one of the best ways to do the splattering is to actually use the shimmer brush lid and just lightly tap. You can move your pen around. If you're not getting as much shimmer as you want, then you can pull up over here from your little pool. And I'm sure that that's not showing completely well on the camera, but I will lift it up once I'm done. Do know that with the clear brush, if you get it on too heavy or brush too heavy, it will give almost a silver, kind of an iridescent look. So that's not quite the look that I'm going for, but do know that that is a possibility. Now, if you want bigger droplets, you can of course use your finger. That's what I've always done before now. So I do want a few that are bigger. I'm going to do those across. I think I have about as much coverage as I would like, maybe a little bit more. So now with this, by doing this combination, I have both the mist and then I also have some of the bigger. Now, if you want really big droplets, then you can take your brush and just squeeze just like that so that you get a bigger droplet. For this project, I'm not necessarily looking for that look, but I'll cover that with a shell. But I just wanted to show you how to do that. I think I'm going to do a little bit more because a lot of this is going to be covered by the shells. Okay, so now I'm going to take my shimmer brush and I'm going to set it aside. And you can see that that little puddle is going to take a little bit longer to dry. I'm going to get out a baby wipe, or your stamp chamois works really well. Just something to wipe off all of the extra glitter from my all-purpose mat. I love this all-purpose mat because it does give me the option to work right on the mat and then just wipe it off, and I'm not wasting a ton of paper. Also allows me to blend and so forth. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my Versa mat, and I have already put foam tape on the back of all of my shells. So I use the thin foam tape. You can use whatever you like, but that is the one that I like the most. Now we're going to take this piece of paper And this is cut to the slimline sizing. So it's going to be 3.5 by 8.5. I'm going to slide this up just a little bit. I'm going to use my adhesive runner that is out. Let me refill it real quick. And I'm just going to add adhesive to the bottom. Then I'm going to center this onto my card front. Just like that. If it helps you, you can also use this mat. You could put that down just loosely, not adhere it, just so that you could see better. That's up to you. I think I did better without the rectangle. Okay, so that is pressed down. Then we're going to remove this mat and we're going to bring in our sample so that you can see. And I am going to go ahead and I'm going to glue down all of my shells. Now I purposely did not glitter the shells because I wanted those to stand out as the matte finish of the white cardstock. Just the background is what I have my shimmer on. So I'm going to position those. If they come off a little bit, it's okay as long as they don't come too far down on the edge, because you can see how this one I have tucked over the top. And so I'm just going to go ahead and use the same order or the same arrangement that I had initially. You of course can change it up however you best fits you. I'm going to pull each of these little pieces off. I do tend to use a lot of foam tape personally. I actually use even more on my cards than I do on my layouts because cards are being handled. At least the layouts, you know, in a page protector, but I use a wealth of adhesive there as well. So I'm going to pull all of these films off. The starfish I wanted to position so that they're going a little bit different ways between the two fish. So I'm going to kind of nestle this one up whatever way nestles the best so that the curvature kind of goes around this shell, where this one I had around that shell. I think that the starfish has the most character. I love the way the little spokies look more realistic and not just kind of like a star, which is what many of my starfish previously have been. It just seems to have more character for my taste. Okay, so this one I'm going to move about right there. And I'm going to come back in with this shell and kind of fit that in the curvature. Of the second starfish. So kind of like that. It's okay to have some spaces because we're going to fill those in with the liquid pearls. I'm going to slide this down right about here or so. This one is going to curve right into, actually I want to cover that dot up a little bit more. So I'm going to pull this up gently and just slide it over so that it covers that better, just like that. And then this one I'm going to put kind of like this. I tried to make sure that all of my shells were going different directions. If I have two of the same shell, I thought that that gave it a little bit more character. This is my second sand dollar. So I'm going to slide him right about there. And actually, I got off just a little bit. Got a little distracted, but that's okay. We'll slide this one in, and if we need to shift it, we'll shift it a little bit. So there's really no wrong way to do this. You can do it, you know, however it best works. Actually, I think that works well. So I think maybe I had this second one over here, but I think I might shift it. Maybe not. Let's pull this one back up. If you tear your foam tape, the best way to remove that is to use your finger and kind of rub it across. I found that I am most successful in that manner. I think I'm going to turn this one up a little bit so they're almost overlapping because I have a little bit more space. These are a little tighter together than on my original. I just want to position them to get them the way that you like them the best. I think that looks a little bit more blended. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to take our frame and we're actually going to use the foam tape. I'm using the thin foam tape, but I'm using the wide thin foam tape, and it is an exact match to the edge of the card as well as the frame. So it'll fit perfectly under that if we go right around the edges. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rotate it and I'm going to go straight edge to edge. Now, you don't necessarily have to have it all the way across because this isn't a shaker. If it was a shaker, then you would want to make sure that it was completely sealed. But if you want to leave a little gap, you can, just as long as it's going to be supported all the way across. Now, for a few of these shells, I'm going to have to wiggle underneath them a little bit because they're going to overlap our frame. Now I'm going to come across the top and bottom. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to do it covering every single space, but for me, it was just easier. And then I'm cutting it just right where it meets the other piece. I'll do one more side. You could, if you want your frame to be higher, then you could certainly do so. Just use our regular foam tape versus our thin. And the width will still be the same, so it'll still fit perfectly under your frame, but it'll just be higher. And actually, I think it would look nice if you did the frame popped up on regular and the shells popped up on thin, then it would certainly look like more of a frame. And I think truthfully, this card would be very pretty even without the frame, just as another thought process. So I'm gonna come and pull one piece completely off, and I'm just gonna slowly adhere my piece. So I'm gonna start in that corner, whatever corner works best for you. And I'm going to line it up right with the edge of the card. And anytime that there's a shell, I'm going to just use my scissors or my fingers, whichever, and pull that tip so that it overlaps the top. Now, if you don't want to do that, you could certainly do it the other way and have the frame on top. But I think just the little tips of the shell look very nice. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pull the second piece and I'm going to inch it along. I feel like this works a little bit better than if you were to try to do the whole thing at one time. And this one has two tips. So I'm going to tuck under those two shells. And I know before I even start this third side, that tip is going to go underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of tuck that. I feel like I have more control if I do a little piece at a time. And I didn't put most of my foam tape, I did not put it, right up against the edges so that I would have a little bit more wiggle room. This one I think I got a little higher than I had intended, but that's okay, we'll make it work. There we go. Because the shell is right on the edge. There we go. Okay, so then I just have one little piece left to pull. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to smooth over my entire card. Okay, so then you want to just double check if there's any pieces that you need to pop up on the edges, if there's any pieces that you need to enforce down. I think I'm going to put a little bit under this piece here, just because it is popping and I didn't originally have foam on that tiny little edge. Okay, so now that I have that done, you just want to decide however you want to glue it down. We're going to glue the entire card front to our Slimline card before we add our liquid pearls. And actually, since that has depth and they're the exact same size, I think it's better to put the adhesive directly on the card. And I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive in the middle as well, which I don't always do, but because this does have some weight to it, I think that that will work out a little bit better. And I think I want mine going the same way that I had the original. So then I'm just going to make sure that I line it up. And I tend to try to remember to do the top seam first, so that if it doesn't fit for whatever reason, I've gotten it on slanted, I can always cut the seams on the bottom to make it even. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use our white opal liquid pearl. This is by Ranger. And I do sometimes have issues with my little nozzle clogging. And so you can just use a piercing tool or your scissors to go down in that bottleneck and get that started. And I'm going to do differently than I've done in previous, in that instead of just doing random dots, I'm going to do sets of 3. And so I'm going to do 3 little dots. So 1, 2, 3, and I want to try to have them going different directions. So I don't want them always to be in a triangle like that. Maybe sometimes it'll be a sideways triangle. And so I'm just filling in those spaces where I have some white showing. And I try to get the same size dollops. Try to unclog this one more time, so that I'm consistent. So I have 3 there. I did stay within the pieces, and as much as possible, I tried to kind of cluster next to one of the shells. Because I don't want to cover up everything. I still want some of my glitter to show through. We do 3 dots here. And if it makes it easier for you, you could turn your card as you go. I have a tendency to set my hand down in my liquid pearls, so I try to be conscious of that and turn it so that I don't accidentally do that. Do 3 here. And there's no right or wrong answer as to how many. I just really liked the grouping. I thought that that looked very elegant versus just doing random dots or dots in straight lines, etc. I don't feel like there's probably enough room down in this little corner, but I think I can probably do one more here and then just leave that corner kind of glittery. Do one more there. Okay, so I think that that is pretty well balanced. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shimmer brush, and this is again using the clear, And I am going to outline the stitching. Oops, I need to squeeze it off there. Of where the thin cut was on my frame. And it's probably not visible on the camera, but it just gives it that extra little detail, and you certainly see it when you're looking at it close up. Now, if you want to, you could also come back with your shimmer brush and you could trace the details of the shells. So I didn't splatter them because I wanted them to be solid white. I didn't want them to have that splattery. But if you wanted to come back and do just the details, and I'll do it on this one so that maybe you can see the difference and see what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna do the cut lines. Squeeze mine off. My tip seems to be a little bit wet, so I don't want to get a big blob, especially like with details. So with this look, I still have that pretty white, stark matte finish. It's not splattered, but I have a little bit of the glitter on the shells to make them stand out. When I've done this before, I did color in just the little star part of the starfish with the shimmer brush. I thought that made it really pop too. Not the starfish, sorry, the sand dollar. I think these details are just truly exquisite on these. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it so I don't hit it with my hand on these thin cuts. They look very, very pretty as well if you are covering them with ink. Those look gorgeous. You could use a light brown, or you could use a blue, just a slight blue. That looks really pretty. I did that in some of my other artwork. Here's another sand dollar, so I'm going to color in those little pieces of the star. And then just outline the rest of this star and this big shell, and we will be good to go. Okay, so again, this was created with the Cape Cod card making workshop. It is available for Close to My Heart from July through August. It is while supplies last, so if you are totally in love with it like I am, you're going to want to grab it before it disappears. Thanks, guys. Have a sassy day.